Yes. You don't want it to show. Yes.
So I'm sitting here.
Lagos, it is 17 minutes, Campus 5. You are tuned into the marketplace here on Smooth 98.1. My name is Joy Uri, and it is a pleasure to be here, talking with you. And today on the marketplace, we'll be discussing Nigeria's real estate sector. Following the rebasing of Nigeria's GDP, the real estate sector's valuation has climbed to 41.3 trillion. And that's a lot, right? Well, this makes the contribution of Nigeria's real estate sector to the economy being the third largest, behind only trade and crop production. But I'm sure that you have questions and you're wondering, is this sudden reevaluation actually real, or is it just on paper? Thankfully, our guest will shed more light on this, because joining me, yes, he is joining me virtually, to unpack all this is Timi Ajayi. He's the CEO of PrimeRidge Real Estate. Good evening, Timi, and good to have you this evening with me.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. It's really good to be here.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, glad to have you as well. Lagos, as always, you can be a part of Marketplace. What you can do is share your thoughts via our WhatsApp platform, 09 11 999 0981. I'll take that again, 09 11 999 0981 is the number on WhatsApp to share your thoughts, observations, questions, and everything else that you would like to know. However, talking about the real estate, right? What do you actually make of the rise in the contribution of the real estate in Nigeria's economy? Is this real or is it fake? Oh my goodness, that's a really interesting one.
I must say it's very, very real. In fact, it's been realer than it has ever been. So to be honest, this is the first time real estate is officially overtaking oil and gas as a contributor to the GDP, right? But I can argue that this is not new. In fact, it's been there. It's just now official. And just like the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics said, is that with better data, they're able to capture more activity in the informal sector of the space. All right. And with more data and better data, we are able to now see the real size of the property space in Nigeria. So if you ask me, I would say it's not entirely new. Even the Bureau of Statistics said it. It's just now they are able to capture better data and we're able to come to conclusion. But if you look at it holistically, everything that we do ultimately ties back to real estate. All right. You are in an office right now, it's a type of real estate, companies are real estate. So if you are saying, okay, an economy is moving, it all falls and it centers on real estate. To create more jobs, you need more offices, you need more spaces for people to work in. Okay, create more companies, you mean there's more infrastructure in the industrial space, factories, warehouses, it's real estate. All right. Ultimately, the very popular one, residential. People must live somewhere, and then we're talking about an economy of over 200 million people. All those people will live somewhere. Now, imagine all that demand moving in one direction. What would happen to that sector? It will grow. All right. So all the other sectors of the economy, we're talking about oil and gas and the others, they still sit on real estate. So real estate ultimately is the common denominator for everything, right? Because your oil rig, all of those things, they are still a type of real estate. All right. So ultimately, what we are just seeing now is better data is showing us the real size of Nigeria's real estate sector.
All right, that is actually good to know. But here's a big question for me. Can we actually say that this is actually felt, that this rise is actually felt by the average Nigerian? Because some would argue that this just benefits players in the sector. So someone like you, for example, you're in the sector, so it's more advantageous to you. That's why you're having these numbers. But for an average person who's just maybe built one small colo there or bungalow or whatever, how does that translate to being something of benefit to him or
Yeah,
her?
I would agree with you, all right? That there are different sides of the divide, right?
Okay.
But
Okay.
ultimately, the ripple effect is felt across board. And I'll give you some instances. So in a space where there's more demand, like real estate, there's more demand for real estate. It
Mm.
means everyone in the value chain is also experiencing more demand. Let's start from the very popular one, landlords, right? For example, in Lagos, rents grew by about 15% or more in Lagos alone. All right. So of course, there's more demand on for the landlords who own properties, the most popular guy.
Right.
And you know that when people are able to make more money from a particular sector, as expected, they want to put more money in that sector. So, for example, you own a property in a Yaba, for example, and now you are making X amount in rent, and you can see that this rent is growing. Any money you
Right.
have, you want to put it back in that same sector. All right.
Most definitely.
So it means landlords are building more houses because, of course, the returns are good. With more construction, everybody in the value chain benefits. I'm talking about suppliers. I'm talking about artisans. I'm talking about, even manufacturers, steel, cement, everybody in the value chain. So, for example, some people might be complaining that, okay, this just benefits the landlords because, they're getting more rent. But you that you are paying rent and you are complaining, you probably have, a distant relative that sells cement. She's benefiting from it.
Ah,
All
okay.
right. You probably
Okay.
have someone who works in a cement depot. They are benefiting from it. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
So ultimately, the ripple effect is felt across board. It might not be directly right, and it can be indirect, but the impact is felt across board. Right? Yeah.
But some would say it's only landowners and developers, as well as real estate agents, that are actually benefiting from the real estate sector. So, if these ones aren't the only ones, who else is getting the benefit from this? I know you said those who sell cement or those who are selling building materials. So, aside those other people, who else benefits?
A
Is
lot,
there
I'll
a
tell
way?
you. I'll tell you.
Okay, please enlighten us, because
A
I'm
lot of
actually
people.
curious.
Because, I'll tell you, real estate is one of the largest employers of labor in terms of the
Ah,
overall economy, both in the
right.
informal and the formal way. Because you talk about your engineers, site engineers, you talk about your electrical engineers, you talk about mechanical engineers, and now you're talking about even the lower guys, on the ladder, the artisans, different consultants, all different, guys are employed by real estate.
Right.
Now let's
Right.
talk about, the corporate people. Banks also benefit a lot from real estate because if more companies decide to build, like my company now, there's demand, I will decide to do more projects. It means more real
Right.
estate companies are going to demand to say, you know what, we have this project,
And you need,
finance us. All right?
yes.
That's
Ah,
benefit for the
okay.
bank. The bank is doing more business, they are probably employing more people. All right?
Fair
Look at
enough.
manufacturing. Now, there's a lot of demand for cement because it's one of the very, very popular, inputs for real estate and construction ultimately. That's a lot of impact in manufacturing. All right? You can see that the news generally maybe just came out yesterday or today that Dangote is also opening up, cement manufacturing in Cote d'Ivoire. It means
Yes, indeed.
yeah, so they are doing so much here in Nigeria, and then they still demand across board, which they're able to go to other places to start that manufacturing. Talk about the guys who produce steel. You can't do any construction without using reinforcement, that's iron rods and all those things. Those companies, more demand is coming from real estate. So you know what? Give us 10 tons of iron, give us 20 tons of iron. It's they're employing more people. The guys are starting, what? Our capacity is increasing. Let's open more warehouses. Let's get more factory spaces across board. You get what I'm saying? Even down to the trailer drivers. Because now one site is becoming 3 sites, 4 sites. They are requesting for more cement. It means more trailer drivers are getting employment. Even motorboys, because trailer drivers are not alone. They have more. All right.
Right.
And then their families benefit from this because these people who are gainfully employed, they can provide for their families and things. So a lot of people, even think about pension funds. The investments that pension funds are now making in real estate grew by over 60% from last year to this year. It was about 15 billion last year. Now it's about 75 billion that pension funds are allocating to real estate. You get, so that is more, so they have a better vehicle to put those monies into. And of course, with more money coming to the space, like I said, all the other guys along the value chain benefits ultimately. So it's not just for landlords, it's not just for developers, but a lot of indirect impacts and that
impacts
people might not see on the surface. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like the fact that you highlighted that it's there's a chain. There's a chain. So if the person at the top actually has access to it, the person below also gets the benefit one way or the other. However, whilst it is that they get to benefit, some people of the school of thought that there's no transparency in the sector. Would you agree to that, or would you say it has actually improved?
Well, we can argue it, and then sometimes we have to also agree to the truth, right? The real estate space, especially in the Nigerian context, has been a bit opaque, all right? But it is getting better. We have to be honest. It's not where it needs to be, but it's much better, right? Use the Lagos, for example. In Lagos, you literally can do a land search, document search in hours, and get a verdict to say, okay, this document is good.
This is how it is.
Some years ago, it wasn't like that, right? You have to wait for weeks to know whether a document is genuine or not. But that has changed.
And that would, if it was printed on paper, you have to wait for it daily before you get verification that it's actually there.
Exactly.
Those were the days. But you know what? We'll get into all that because there's still this question as to if well, we're going to touch on certain situations and cases where some properties have been linked to money laundering. But we'll touch on that when we get back from this quick breather. Lagos, the Move Muscle State into Smooth 98.1. Just a quick breather. We're back in. Just a quick one.
All right.
Way of taking us on a journey, and when you add plenty of vegetables like a pork and season with the rich taste of no seasoning cubes, even better. So go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of no cubes. Today, eat for good.
Year on year, agriculture continues to be the backbone of Nigeria's GDP,
driving the nation towards a future of global export dominance.
It's time to unlock Nigeria's immense agriculture and export potential at the 4th edition of the First Bank Agri and Export Expo. Theme: the fundamentals of building an export-driven economy.
Hear from industry experts like
Mr. Abubakar Bello, MD CEO, Nigeria Export Import Bank; Mrs. Noye Ayeni, Executive Director, CEO, Nigeria Export Promotion Council; Mr. Jafar Omar, Director General, Nigeria Agribusiness Group.
Mohammed Abu Ibrahim, Executive Secretary, CEO, National Agricultural Development Fund. Olusegun Awolowo, National Coordinator, Nigeria African Continental Free Trade Area Coordination Office.
And many other speakers.
Date 19th August 2025. Venue Eco Convention Center, Victoria Island, Lagos.
Register at www.firstbanknigeria.com. First Bank. It doesn't make sense.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me?
All right, Lagos, 32 minutes, gun plus 5. You are tuned into the marketplace here on Smooth 98.1. And today we're talking about the growth of real estate in Nigeria's in Nigeria's rebased GDP, and see if it has actually grown or if it's just a false state, but it actually is growing. And sharing insights on this is Timi Ajayi. He is the CEO of he's CEO of PrimeRidge Real Estate, and he's still sharing great insights. Thank you once again for being here. And don't forget, you can be a part of Marketplace today. You have any thoughts, contributions, what you can do is share them on WhatsApp. The number is 0911 Let's get back into the conversation, because I was talking about transparency in the sense that I know you you said it has improved. However, there are cases of properties whose owners cannot be traced to certain people, cannot be traced basically, and that gives way to money laundering. And sometimes the issue of transparency also translates to investing in land. And we've seen where certain people will buy a piece of land or property, and before you know it, it just turns out to be that someone else is also owning that. So let's get into this. Let's even get insight into how we can figure out first off, the money laundering bit, then how those ones are being transferred. But someone will tell you, oh, it's deed that you're having, no, it's governor's content you're having. It can be confusing. So I like your input on this.
Absolutely, being someone who is, in this space, this is things we have to deal with every day. So waking up every day, this is what I have to deal with. So, yeah, I can tell you for a fact, it's something that we can't run away from. But in terms of things like, properties being linked to money laundering, it's, I would say, to be factual, it's not something that's peculiar to Nigeria. This is something that's it's a problem all over the world. All right. And it's not just real estate, that people can link to real estate to money laundering and things like that. They even use business, think of entertainment, nightlife businesses, things like that. All right. But while that problem is there, of course, we are taking measures. There are measures being taken by regulators, by policymakers to continue to curb this. For example, as a real estate company operating in Nigeria, there's a document for special anti-money unit that is linked to the EFCC that you must link to your account as a real estate company. And it's not just real estate, there are a couple of other companies like that. Generally it's called SUMO, which means that transactions done by real estate, for example, are monitored, right? So this also makes it easier to track these kinds of maybe illicit funds being diverted into real estate, because of a truth, it's happening, right? So those measures are there, and you see, for example, EFCC, for example, are taking a step further where they are going to treat or train real estate companies on how to even safeguard themselves against things like this, because sometimes real estate company is just innocently doing their business, going about their day-to-day business, after doing their normal KYC, thinking that this person is a normal person, this is a normal client. But this is someone who has gone to channel some sort of money from somewhere and coming to you as a right? So in all honesty, sometimes the real estate developers or the real estate companies are just doing their normal day-to-day business. And then they believe this is a normal transaction until things happen and then things are traced to them. So in this case, you see that authorities like EFCC go the extra mile of actually organizing trainings for real estate developers, real estate companies to know how to identify this kind of shady deals or shady buyers, just to make sure that there's some sort of sanity in that space to curb issues of like money laundering or bringing illicit funds into real estate. All right. So those things they are ongoing. It's still work in progress. I won't say it's perfect yet, but it's not where it should be. All right. So you can see that there's the will to make it work, which makes a lot of sense. All right. So there's that. And then the second question was around,
how can prospective buyers or prospective investors, how can they actually determine that the land that they're buying isn't going to be sold to someone else?
So that's also a problem that's been there for years, especially in the Nigerian context, especially the Omo dealers, making sure that they sell more than 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. All right, but I would say that people are getting more enlightened when it comes to investing in real estate. The way people invested in real estate, say 2-3 decades ago, or even 4 decades ago, is not the same way they invest in real estate now. A lot of things have changed. For example, title verification, the process has changed. So you're able to see, for example, if you want to buy a property, you can know if there's a mortgage on that property or not. Before now, it's much longer, it's more tedious. It's not like that all over the country, for example, but like states like Lagos or they've already adopted a lot of technology in the process of property verification, which makes things easier for people who are looking to invest in the space or buy properties. All right. So another thing again is, I always use this illustration. When their cars have an issue, they go to their mechanic. When they are feeling sick, they go to their doctor. But when they want to invest in real estate, they want to wing it. They believe it's just property, I can just buy it, right? But with everything, and to be honest, this is one of the largest purchases most people would ever make. Real estate. It's one of the largest single purchases most people will ever make. So if you're making so much investment, why not just invest in working with professionals? The same way you will not say, okay, my car is developing an issue, I will just fix it myself. Or I'm having some, I want to take care of my health, I'll just do it myself. All right. So people a lot of times self-medicate, if I will use the word, when it comes to investing in real estate. But there are people, professionals that are actually there to guide you in these things. But sometimes the things that look normal to you are actually not normal, because the professionals are able to see behind the scenes of what you cannot see as someone who is just coming as an investor. So very, very, very important is that people should work with professionals. You can just look at the title document and it looks okay to you until your lawyer begins to dig deep and they see that, oh, there's some layers of, this person has taken a facility on this property, there's some hidden place on this property, but you won't be able to say that. It's the same thing even with when it comes to people, things like structural. If I would digress now, you are looking at the property and it looks okay, but a structural engineer is able to test and know that, okay, this structure,
it's not looking good.
It's actually, you get what I'm saying? All right. So people need to understand that they have to work with professionals when they want to do real estate. For example, a lot of people don't know that real estate in itself, it's a professional course. Myself, for example, I studied estate management. It's a 5-year course. It's just as if you are doing engineering. Right? It's 5 years. And these people graduate and become certified professionals. And those are people you have to work with because they have your interest at heart. Aside just every Tom, Dick, and Harry that says their thing. Right? So people need to understand that it's important to work with professionals when doing something as crucial as real estate investment. So that's one way to, of course, safeguard. And even when you're looking at a company to work with, when you want to invest, make sure that you're working with a company that has a good track record. There's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of people calling themselves real estate companies, but there's no track record to show. You can check those things. Just make sure that you have track record. This is a reliable company to work with, and with that you can really protect yourself from a lot of stories that touch. Really say it.
I'm glad that you've raised that, because it seems like we have a booming real estate market, but it's almost as if there's a shortage of housing. And how can there be a shortage when it seems that there's so many people so many real estate companies out there? And I'm just curious, how can we now shorten that? How can we reduce this?
I'll tell you, right? It's a very interesting paradox. Like you already said it. It's that okay? We are saying there's so much real estate companies, and then we are saying there's
right.
All right. It's the answer is very simple and direct. As much real estate companies as we have, we've not been able to scratch the surface in terms of attending to the demand that exists for real estate. All right. So, for example, if there are 1,000 people who need a product, and you have only maybe 5 or 6 people, providing those products, they will always be scarce because there will not be enough to sell, all these people who need these things. And that's the same case in real estate, all right? In Lagos alone, our deficit is about, over 4 million units in housing, right? And how many units are real estate companies in Lagos able to provide or produce in a year? It's nothing close to it. It's nothing close to it. Of course, there's a lot of factors contributing to that, cost of finance, of course, things that we talked about, title issues, cost of land as well. A lot of things contributing to that. But in terms of actually scratching the surface to attend to the housing deficit that we are not close. We are not anywhere close, right? So that is always going to be there until there's something drastic that happens, or maybe the cost of finance reduces. There's things like social housing. But of course, as it is, the real estate companies will just keep trying, but the deficit also keeps increasing. That's another,
because we keep growing, so we keep expanding. So we'll definitely have that increase as we go further. However, before I let you go, I want to get this out there, and I want your honest thoughts on this. Can we actually have affordable? And I know that affordable is relative depending on on who you're speaking with, but can we have relatively affordable housing, especially seeing how inflation is always on the upside? We have it presently in double digits, and then the cost of living is skyrocketing every day. Makes me wonder, is there any time we would get affordable housing? I like the smell you're wearing because even you're like,
you can see there's a deep side. There's a deep side because, to be honest,
huge one.
Yeah. Even for someone like me, it's usually a major burden on my heart, right? To see that how do we, crack this issue of attaining affordability, right? But we have to also now come back to economics, the laws of demand and supply. Right? When demand is higher than supply, what happens to prices? Prices go up, right? And we operate in a market where demand is way much more higher than supply. So, attaining affordability is still a very steep call, if I would say. But again, it's not impossible. It will take some time, but it's not impossible. And there's a lot of things that needs to come to play to achieve affordability. All right? It can't be achieved by one party. It can't be achieved by only the private sector, for example. It cannot be achieved by only the government. It cannot be achieved by just institutional investors. It can only be achieved by what I would say a of efforts, right? So you have government playing their part, you have the private sector playing their part, and you have maybe institutional players playing a part. Let's say, for example, if we want to achieve affordability, it means, for example, a property that is supposed to be 40 million, we are now able to price it at maybe half that, 20 million. It will not happen by miracle, right? Because at the end of the day, all the inputs and all the costs that need to go into building that structure that you have built for 40 million will still go into it. So how are we able to reverse engineer that and achieve a lower price? Now all the players need to come to the drawing table. The government, for example, are you able to subsidize land? Because land is crazy expensive right now. I'll tell you, land is extremely, extremely expensive because you know it is also short in supply. So, for example, we as a developer, we want to build maybe a block of apartments, right? And we are already looking at land cost of about 300, 400 million naira for maybe just say a 600 square meter land, 700 square meter land. That cost needs to go back into the project, all right? Because the project cost, and then we add it to the pricing, right? But now imagine that we are able to get land subsidized, and government is saying, if you are building apartments, as a developer come forward, you will get land in this location, at this subsidized rate. Now that has brought down the cost of land to me as a developer. All right. So with that, I'm able to now say, okay, what should have cost me like 400 million? It's costing us 200. So we would, instead of us to price this place 40 million, we're able to bring it down to maybe 30, 35, thereabout. We're bringing down. Government is able to say, you know what? If you are building apartments, you know, targeted at middle income earners, low income earners, you have a tax waiver. You get what I'm saying? You are now interested in doing that because you have incentives to go into that, right? You see a lot of developers going to building luxury because the markups are much better. And a real estate company is a business. They are not an
It's into business to make money. It's not.
Exactly
it's not about making friends.
Exactly. They are not about to make friends or make new family members. They want to make money because these guys are taking a lot of
risks.
Facilities. You know what I'm saying? So they go to banks. Banks don't pity them. Banks know that you are a real estate company, you make money, so they will give you well.
They'll mark it up.
You will pay well. Your cost of finance will be high. You got what I'm saying? There's a lot of movement in the market. You are starting a project here now in 2025. Prices are X and Y. By the end of the year, the price can be anything. Price of your input.
I get that. Thank you.
So you need to be protected from that. So there's that part. And I now think of things like public-private partnerships where the government says, you know what, we bring the land. Institutional investors, private equity firms, you bring the finance. We are a property development company, you bring the expertise. And then we are building 5,000 homes here. Everybody you are incentivized. So, for example, as a private equity firm, okay, you want to invest in affordable housing. Instead of being taxed X amount, we tax you X amount. And then you also have access
to that will make it easier.
Exactly. So you have housing fund that we can house that fund with you. Just make sure you continue to roll it over, and then that works. And then as a real estate development company, you are bringing your expertise, your manpower, skills, and then you are getting this incentive, right?
Thank you.
And then the government in the end, they are able to provide housing units, gradually reduce that housing deficit that we are all struggling with. Because I will tell you, it is a struggle. Because we are
hopefully.
We build
I would love us to keep. I would enjoy us to keep talking, but we've literally run out of time. It's something that we'll probably have to have another conversation around it. Probably focus on how we can figure out how to deal with affordable housing going forward. But thank you so much for the insight you shared today. And how can the rest of Lagos or the world, for anyone who's trying to get into the real estate sector, they have questions they need answers to, how can they reach out to you on your social media platform?
Yeah, of course, we are very available to work with people. They can reach out to us via email or social media. My social media Instagram is at Timi Ajayi. Timi,
Okay.
Timiajayii. Timi Ajayi. And then the company is PrimeRidge Real Estate. You can check at PrimeRidge Real Estate on Instagram, LinkedIn, and then you can call our numbers or send me an email.
No, it's okay with the handles. That way they'll be able to get all the insights that they need and follow through